Hello and welcome to the webinar presentation entitled, Are You Thinking of Running for Councillor or MLA here in Nova Scotia? This is a presentation for citizens of Nova Scotia who are thinking about launching a political career. My name is Shelley Bellefontaine and I welcome you to today's webinar. I just want to take a moment to go over what we're going to cover today so that I can meet your expectations for this webinar. We're going to talk first about some self-assessment guidelines to determine if indeed you are ready to run. We'll also do a reality check-in and talk about some tangible items like finances and other things that you need to have in place before you consider taking that leap into politics. I'm going to share with you as well something called the vote goal, and there's a very specific formula that we use to determine how many votes you actually need to win, and it's a very valuable tool that my clients over the years have used. I'm also going to review with you how to position yourself in terms of what to do and what to say and how to say that, not only in person, in door-to-door or at door-to-door, but also online. Leading into that is the online campaign. We'll talk about some of the features that you need to have in place if you want to represent yourself online for a political campaign. And then a timeline is always advisable in order to stick to budget and to the tasks at hand. At the end of the webinar, I will be having an offer for you to consider if you wish to move forward with positioning yourself to run online. My name is Shelley Bellefontaine and I'm from Atlantic Online. I am the founder of a digital marketing agency and we've been actually helping business owners here in Atlantic Canada to navigate their digital since 1999, and we offer web design, both brochure style and e-commerce sites, and we also work with companies and small business owners to strategically promote themselves online through social media promotion. If you're at all interested in thinking about making online revenue generation your reality, then I suggest that you get in touch with us at atlanticonline.ca. I'd like to talk with you for a moment about what my political experience has been in terms of working with candidates over the years, both at the provincial and the municipal level. And then you'll see how well I can align my political experience with the digital marketing services that my company offers. My company, or in fact, this was before I had launched Atlantic Online. I was operating independently at that time, but in 1999, I developed the first campaign website for a political provincial campaign. In 1999 to 2003, the winner of that first campaign website elected to have me manage their online positions. So that required an MLA website and online management and promotion of that particular MLA at that time. After that, from 2003 leading up to present, I've been heavily involved with electoral campaigns in terms of developing and managing electoral websites for both provincial and municipal candidates, and don't discriminate between parties. I can have lengthy conversations with each of you on the dogma associated with each political platform, but I do support either liberal, conservative, independent, and green in their pursuit, and I commend anyone for moving forward to represent their communities through an election campaign. Then from 2003 until 2009, I continued with the online management and the promotion of newly elected MLAs as well. Then since I'd say 2003 to present as well, we also developed and managed councillor campaigns as well. Then in 2016, I was the area election officer for two of the largest districts within the Halifax Regional Municipality. And in that capacity, I was responsible for helping to return the vote successfully at end of day, ensuring that the electoral process was followed amongst the multitude of staff that I had the responsibility of hiring. And it was an excellent experience to work on behalf of the municipality of Halifax to return that vote for those two districts. So very good opportunities over the years that have helped to formulate my ability to help position candidates to have successful online campaigns. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about whether or not you're really ready to run. So there are some hardcore questions that you have to ask yourself before you make this very important decision that will not only impact you, but your friends and family undoubtedly. The very first question that I always ask a potential client who's considering being a candidate is whether or not they have a passion for public service. Because if you don't, quite frankly, I think you might be misaligning your objectives here. Because when you run for a political position and you assume that position on winning, you have a great deal of responsibility to the public, and you have a great deal of responsibility to the community that you're serving as well. And if you don't have a passion for that, then you will not be seen as authentic, and you will not be perhaps aligned with the right kind of position. So you need a deep passion for public service initiatives and public service activities. You really do have to have a service mindset. Do you have a position in mind is another question that I ask potential candidates as well. At the municipal level, depending on the size of your municipality, there could be several opportunities within the municipal infrastructure where your talents and your skills from your profession or from your previous pre-candidate life can be of benefit and can be of service to the community. So if you have a particular position in mind, that is great. If your municipality is tinier than, say, HRM, I know there are some very small municipalities within the province. Don't dismiss the fact that you may not have a clear position on council, for example, because your skills and your talents can always be applied. I think if you you really look at the structures in place within the municipal organizations in this province. So always try to have a good position in mind as to what you want to achieve once you're elected. And then you have to go through a series of steps depending on whether or not you're running provincially or municipally to determine if you are qualified. So you have to meet a bare minimum set of qualifications, and that varies from municipality to the provincial level as well. But we'll be talking about some of those. I think the one qualifying question that I always ask potential candidates is it vanity? I ask people, how is it going to make you feel when you see your name on a billboard? Or how are you going to feel when you see your name on a lawn sign or your picture in print? And if they say, oh, I'm going to look great, or it's going to be fabulous to see my name out there. Well, you know what? I tend to get disconnected at that point because your motivation could be vanity. And that's not really jiving with having a solid, committed, and authentic passion for public service. So if it's vanity, I'd suggest you might want to step back a little bit and reassess why you think you're ready to run. Another major question is for you to ask yourself is, are you in good health? Because, my friends, this is a marathon. You don't necessarily have to have the fitness level of a triathlon, but you need to be in good health because you're going to hit the ground running early in the morning. And if you have a family or if you have other responsibilities, you're going to have to be able to be fit in order to balance all of the demands of one's general life plus the demands of running through a campaign. So you're going to need to have good energy throughout the day. You're going to have to spend long hours, sometimes into the evening, with your campaign team, reviewing the day's activities, planning the next day's activities, and looking at your overall campaign strategies. You need to have a lot of, a lot of energy to do that. You have to be fit and in good health. Running is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the faint of mind, and it is certainly not for the faint of emotion, because you are going to be challenged on your values and your beliefs, and you're going to be challenged on those values and beliefs of your political party if indeed you're running in a provincial campaign with a particular party. So you need to be able to respond positively at all times, and to do that you need a strong heart and a strong mind, and you need to be emotionally well balanced as well. Now let's talk about the community. Are you involved in your community? Because relationships matter. Your relationships with community members and your knowledge of local community matters will be very, very helpful. Connections also matter. You need a connection with the community you want to represent. Now, if the writ is dropped tomorrow, or if the election the bell sounds tomorrow, don't at that point, my friend, go off and join community-based groups, because that's going to show you're rather inauthentic. Some candidates have done that in the past. They've aligned themselves with high-profile community-based organizations leading up to or at the time of election calls. And hey, where were they prior to? I strongly suggest we revisit that first question. And do you have that passion for public service? And do you have the passion for community service? Because they tend to go hand in hand. So if you are involved in a positive way with your community, then those good relationships that you formed working at the community level will pay off. And your connections are also going to speak on your behalf as well. So have those authentic community-based relationships in place, and that should be part of your mantra going forward. Have you Googled yourself lately? Okay, this is always a tricky one, because sometimes we cannot control what our friends or our family or associates or other people put online about us. However, you can control what your public profile is that you own. So take a look at your Facebook posts. Take a look at any photographs that have been captured of you. Do you always have a drink in hand? Do you have a cigarette and a drink in hand? Sometimes those are turn-offs for people. It always seems to me that, Facebook, we're celebrating our connections, where our friends, our photographs rather, are with friends, and we're partying, we're having a great time. Collectively, you end up having a series of photographs where you might be raising the glass a little too often. And sometimes that is a huge, huge turn-off for people. So step back from your personal Facebook profiles and take a good hard look and make sure that there's nothing on there that's going to be perceived negatively by your electors. And that's a judgment call that you're going to have to make, but do make sure that you are always your very best online and clean up those public profiles. Let's talk about the moolah. Let's talk about the money. It's an integral part of your campaign, whether you're running municipally or provincially. You have to ask yourself, are you financially stable? And if you are, then that's awesome, because likely you will have to take time off from work, and the campaign does not pay candidates. I cannot stress that enough. If you have an expectation that you're going to benefit financially from the campaign funds, then you want to step back right there, because the campaign funds have to be separate and they're not there for the benefit of you personally. Campaigning is not cheap, and if you're not financially stable, then it's best to wait until the time that you are. Are you willing to ask your family and your friends for money? And if you are, then that's awesome, because your family and your friends will be your startup money, and it is the absolute easiest money to get. But if you are not willing to ask people for help, if you're not willing to ask those people who are closest to you for help, then you're not going to be well positioned to find external support as either. Because if external supporters see that your family and friends are not supporting you, then they're going to become a little disenfranchised with you. So you need to have that, yes, I can ask people for money mindset. And then you need to figure out, and we'll be talking a little bit more in detail as to the actual campaign finances that you're going to need, but can you actually raise enough to win, even without knowing exactly how much? If you think you can, then that's great. That is the attitude that you need, and you can make that commitment to do some fundraising. If you think you can only raise a couple of $100, well, sorry friend, that is just not quite enough. Then we have to figure out if you are qualified in terms of age, citizenry, and residency. And these are the three basic qualifiers. In order to be a political candidate in Nova Scotia, you have to be 18 years of age at the time of nomination. And the nomination process is when you file your application with either the province or the municipality in which you wish to run, in which you file your application papers indicating that you are going to be a candidate. You have to be a Canadian citizen, and you have to be 6 months in the municipality or the region in which you wish to campaign. Other things to consider as well when determining whether or not you're ready or if you're qualified. Are your taxes paid up? That's a big one. And the closer you are to the larger urban centers, the larger your taxes are. So make sure your tax bills are up to date. If you're on, say, for example, a payment schedule for your taxes, which is quite a common thing, make sure that your payment schedule is up to date. Are there any liens against any of your properties as well? Make sure that those things are taken care of. In terms of the municipality, we have something called a Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and you want to take a very close look at this act and assess whether or not you have family members or family businesses that do business with the municipality in which you would like to run. So do make sure that you are at arm's length from that and that no conflict presents, and always put public interest ahead of any private advantage. That's the underlying key there when determining if there is a conflict or not. Of course, if you are a member of parliament, a senator, a sitting MLA, then you are immediately disqualified from running in those positions for a political position. I put this in for the village commission for the municipal potential candidates. If you're a member of a village appointed commission, then you're going to have to step aside from the village commission. What that refers to is if there is a commission that has been struck or organized by the municipality in order to take care of a municipally related task or project, they tend to have compensation awarded to them from the municipality, then that poses an obvious conflict there, and you'd have to step away. If you're a judge, then you are disqualified from running. If, however, you're a member of the utility board or commission, or again, a committee of the municipality where funds are transferred, then you're going to have to step away from that. If you're a councillor in another municipality, you're not qualified. And this is an interesting one. If you are a person who's been convicted of bribery on any practice considered contrary to the Municipal Elections Act 5 years prior, then you are disqualified. I guess it's okay for 6. I check on that one. Hopefully you haven't been convicted of any sort of offense, period. So we've gone through some of the pre-qualifying questions and some of the self-assessment to determine if indeed you are ready. And we think, yeah, okay, you meet all of these qualifications, you have the passion, etc., etc. But the really big question, my friend, that you have to ask yourself is why? Why are you running? If you're running for community-based reasons, if you're running because you know that you have the skills, capacity, and intelligence and ability and the desire to help your community, then you're running for the right reason. If you're running, say, to advocate on behalf of a particular cause, and if that particular cause can be beneficial to the citizens at large within your community, then, my friend, you are also running for a great reason. If, however, you're running because you were asked, I'd say that's a little bit of a flag. Think about the motivation behind the person or the group that's asking you to run. And I think you might reassess your position there. You can't run just because you were asked to do so. Oftentimes, there can be nefarious reasons. And are you really going to be your own independent person if you're elected? If say, for example, somebody is encouraging you to run, you really do have to look at what the motivation is from the person who's asking you to run. You have to run from your heart. You have to run from your own mind. If, however, sorry about that, if you're running for revenge, and my friends, I have seen this. This is not a good reason to run, obviously. If you don't like the incumbent, if you can't stand their party, that's going to be a tremendous amount of negative emotion that you're going to carry into the campaign. And people will pick up on that. And running for revengeful or vengeful reasons is never a good reason to run for anything. Another reason why I would suggest not running is just because you can win. Well, it's not always important to be the winner. You need to be able to contribute properly, and you have to be able to contribute to the point where all the citizens benefit. So just because you can win doesn't mean you're going to take the role seriously. So there are a lot of things to consider here, whether or not you should be running. And let's have a reality check. If you don't tell the truth, somebody will be telling it for you. Yes, if you do not tell the truth, somebody will indeed tell it for you. So have integrity. Let's carry on with election reality. Here are some things that you need to know before you run. And the biggie is the fundraising. What exactly can you raise? I suggest you take a personal assessment. Are your credit cards paid off and up to date? Do you have a little bit of credit to carry you through the campaign? Because you're going to need a lot of incidental expenses or have to take care of incidental expenses that are going to creep up. The odd lunch out, the odd supper out, paying maybe for your campaign staff, covering gas expenses. So those are the little incidentals, but you need to take a huge personal assessment of all of your assets to determine how much you're going to be able to contribute to your campaign. I suggest that you create what's referred to as a donor database. And in your donor database, I would suggest that you write down or, document the names and the contact information of people and organizations who can help you with your campaign. And then what's particular about this donor database is that you will track the help type. So people or orgs can initially give you cash, If they cannot give you cash, don't dismiss them as being, not worthy of contributing, because they might be able to make key introductions for you. Moreover, they might be able to endorse you to their colleagues. And I can tell you that when you have an endorsement from a CEO in their boardroom, and the directors of that company and the staff of that company hear that that their CEO is backing so-and-so, that can lend a lot of credibility, and it's going to reinforce your image all the more positively. So don't dismiss anyone who cannot or chooses not to give you cash, because those introductions can be your opportunity to get more votes, if you will, and you're being introduced possibly to key people in your communities. But also endorsement is the type of it's a very tangible contribution to your campaign. In terms of totaling up the amount of cash, your donor database should give you a reflection of about 1/3 of what your total need is. Okay. So how much is actually needed? Well, this is a tad bit subjective. I would suggest, if you can, to review the past candidate amounts. Now, this can be done by, I know with the Halifax Regional Municipality that they have a candidate financial disclosure form given by the candidates, and that's something that's compiled by the official agent or sometimes the candidate after the election is over, and it indicates all of the campaign contributions. At the provincial level, it's a bit more detailed as well. In other areas, in other municipalities, I'm not quite sure if they have it publicly disclosed on their websites, but you can contact the municipality that you choose, that you're, choosing to run in, and ask the question if you can find or have copies of the candidate disclosure, the financial disclosure statements from the past, okay? And that's going to give you a key piece of information as to how much of a fund was raised and used in their past campaign. You can also take a look at past campaigns and look at their material usage. From that, you can gauge whether or not you should get signs, mail out, and so forth. With respect to mail outs, we can go really, really expensive and have like glossy, two-sided, full-color brochures, or you can go quite effectively priced with, say, a single grayscale kind of document that can be also sent out in the mail. So take a look at the mail outs that were done, and then call up a printer, get them to give you an assessment as to what that would cost. There are lots of signage companies in the area as well, throughout the municipalities and the provinces, that would be able to give you an assessment on what it would cost to get similar campaign materials printed. So always assess, if you can, past usage. Estimate, too, the competitive advantage that your competitor has, or the financial advantages that your competitor has. Find out, if you can, and if you're in small communities, you can pretty much gauge this. So that's going to be an important bit of financial information for you to know for sure. The next check-in for your election reality is, why should people vote for you? You really have to figure out what your competitive advantage is. You need to know what your unique selling proposition is, and that's a standard marketing term. But knowing how you are uniquely positioned versus your competitors is going to help you move forward for sure. It is critical for your messaging, and knowing what your competitive advantage is will help you craft those marketing messages or those statements, and those statements should be used in all of your marketing. It should be used when you're in person at the door. It should be used online and print and radio. So you should have consistent messaging based on what your competitive advantage is. What's really important to know is the vote goal. And this is something I just can't stress enough. If you know what your vote goal is, then that's going to dictate everything you do. It's going to determine how much money you have to raise. It's going to determine how many doors you have to go to and visit and handshake. It's going to be the ultimate number of the votes that you have to acquire in order to have a successful campaign. The formula is based on the past percentage of registered voters, taking into account the current amount of registered voters. And that's going to determine what the estimated turnout. You need a safe, comfy margin of about 52% of the turnout. We actually have a vote goal worksheet that I use with my candidates to determine what the vote goal is. It's based on the expected vote, which is the number of voters you expect to turn out in the upcoming election. Let's just think about that for a second. How on earth can you determine what you expect for a turnout? Based on past elections, yes, but based on current contentious issues. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, there was a candidate who ran for the position of mayor. I won't say where, but this person was very well known. You either loved this person or you hated this person. And that, unfortunately, we often have that love-hate relationship with our politicians. But this particular politician obviously inspired a lot of motivation and energy in the voters, because on election day, the polls were packed. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be an overwhelming victory. My surprise was that it was an overwhelming no for this particular candidate. And I thought, wow, that was a surprise. Oftentimes we see a very passive electoral community. We see very low voter turnout. So it's been my experience that if there's a huge voter turnout, it's either in extreme opposition to the candidate, or in this, as it was in this case. I had so thought during the 2016 United States federal election that the huge voter turnouts on the day of their election would be in opposition to their incumbent president. Was I ever wrong on that occasion? So it's the expected vote is a tricky one. However, it's part of the base of this formula that we work for. We work towards identifying the vote goal, which is that percentage of the vote needed for your comfortable win. There's something referred to as a base vote percentage as well, and that's the average lowest percentage of the vote received by a candidate for the past 3 elections. Then we calculate with that the base vote number, which is the percentage applied to that expected vote, and we always have to determine what the deficit is as well. That is the number of votes that you still need after accounting for your base vote. We have a vote goal calculator that we use, and I'd be happy to demonstrate this for you in a moment, but I'll just go over some of the key features. We take into account the current number of registered voters in your district or in your area or the location, and this number can be found when you receive your nomination papers. It will tell you the exact number of registered voters, because you'll get the voters list when you after your nomination has been approved. So that's where you can start with that initial number. We take into account as well the last percentage of the registered voters in a similar election, and we can generate from that what the estimated turnout will be, and the vote goal is based on 52% of the estimated turnout. So I'm going to do a demonstration. Just please stand by while I load that. And this is the vote goal calculator that we use when we need to determine what the vote goal is. So we look at the current number of registered voters for your particular district or your location. Let's just choose a random number like 2,000. The next key part is the percentage of people who were registered in the last election and who actually voted. Let's be very, realistic, I suppose. Let's say 38%. That's going to calculate for us the estimated turnout is going to be 760. The vote goal, therefore, is 52% to be comfortable from the estimated turnout. So your vote goal, in this case, with a electoral list of 2,000, will be 395. So if you can safely secure 395 people, votes, then you will be able to have some success with your campaign. So the all-important information has been determined, what it is that we need to acquire for the vote, and we've determined that you're ready. So now during your campaign, you need to know what you are going to say. We're going to talk about an elevator speech, your unique selling point, the value proposition, what you say and do door to door, and during the debate strategy as well. The elevator speech is simply a short recap of who you are and what you do, and it's going to be a critical piece of information, and it's going to be a critical message for you to memorize, because it's going to either impress or not with the people that you encounter. The name itself, elevator speech, comes from the very notion that the speech should be delivered in a very short amount of time, typically the length of time that it would take to do an elevator ride. It's really important because it is an icebreaker to start a conversation. It's a very short pitch, and your elevator speech should really be compelling enough to spark the listener's interest in what you are saying. So it's going to be the response from your listener will be, after hearing your elevator speech, something like, "Oh, tell me more." So the elevator speech is really important. Always start by introducing yourself. Provide a summary of what you do and explain what you want. You will not be taken seriously unless you say what you want. You're not going to create that impression on somebody unless you actually say why you're engaging in a conversation with them. Always finish with a call to action. So here is an example. My name is so-and-so. I'm campaigning for the position of councillor for District X. I have strong experience working with, and we'll get to this USP in a second. List 3 things that you have strong experiences working with. And then you would say something like, I'd like to see this community continue to grow. Do you have any concerns that you'd like to talk about? Okay, so that is a standard elevator speech. Now this USP 1, 2, and 3 refers to your unique selling proposition. A unique selling proposition is the factor that differentiates you, or in the marketing sense, a product from the competitor's product. Things in the marketplace that are differentiators are things like the lowest cost, the highest quality, or maybe it's the very first product off the assembly line. It's the unique factor that helps you differentiate you from your competitors. Think of it as what you have that your competitors don't have. Here are some examples. Take FedEx Corporation, for example. This is a brilliant, unique selling proposition because theirs is when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight. Well, let's look at this for a second. Their competitors also are courier deliverers, and I'm sure that they, get their packages there on time. But what the customers might want might be a little different from what the competitor can supply. So you capitalize on that. And because FedEx says we get it there overnight, that's that's cementing a good relationship with that customer, and that is clearly the unique selling proposition for the FedEx Corporation. The chocolate that melts in your mouth, not in your hand, is from M&M's. That's a really good one, unless you don't like chocolate. But here's a catchy one, but's not so great as a USP. De Beers, a diamond is forever. Well, I think by the nature of diamond, it is a forever thing. So I don't think that the USP for De Beers is all that great. I did want to show you some very strong ones and very weak ones. So you want to have your unique selling proposition reflect you for sure. Second to that is the value proposition. Now, in the marketing world, we refer to the value proposition as something that convinces your customers that your products or your services are the best among all your rivals. And the goal, of course, is that your target audience will buy your product. Well, in politics, your value proposition is to convince the elector that your skills and your abilities are the very best amongst all of your rivals, so that in essence the elector will vote for you. So it's very important to have not only a unique selling proposition, that which differentiates you from your competitors, but you also need to have your value proposition as well. And all of these marketing statements are not just fluff. They're going to be present on all of your collateral that you use for your campaign. And it's going to show that you're quite a credible individual as well. Steer away, however, from negative value propositions. It's so easy in political campaigns, especially these days, to be dissing on your competitor. This is a very negative value proposition, because it's saying for electors who aren't satisfied with their current candidates or their current councillor or whatever, this is what I'll do during the campaign, unlike our competitors. So what this is doing here, this is a very negative value proposition, because it's only focusing on, for the most part, where you think your competitors are failing. You're not talking about how you can help your customer or your client, or in this case, your elector. Great example here of a value proposition is from Trello. It's very succinct. It's saying it's the free, flexible, and visual way to organize anything with anyone. It's not dumping on the competition. It's not saying anything negative about their rivals. It's simply saying in a nice way how their situation, their tool solves a problem for their contacts. Likewise with the Uber, you just simply tap the application, tap the app, and you get a ride. So it's not negative, it's very positive. And this is something you will want to work on. We work with our clients, candidate clients, to develop value propositions and USPs, because they're tangible pieces of your marketing as well. In door-to-door, having those conversations with your electors is key. It is a key way, going door to door is a key way of interacting with those voters, but you don't have to knock on every door. Okay? You don't have to knock on every door. You will know from your vote goal calculator how many votes you have to get. And then I would recommend going, a little over that, but you don't have to knock on every door. And thank goodness, because some of the ridings in this province are huge, and it's just impossible to do so. But when you are at the door, after you've had your conversation with that elector, collect some data. Try to document who they're voting for. That's going to help you at the end of the day when you're having your campaign meetings with your team. Find out if they need a ride. Document if they're going to volunteer. Can they make a donation to your campaign? So always be on guard and be on point to collect as much information about what's happening in the minds of your voters as possible. And this is achieved by going door to door. You can't any other way. Also, of course, go prepared each and every time. That elevator speech is going to be used at the door when you have conversations with new potential electors. You will want to reiterate your unique selling propositions and your value propositions. Make sure that's evident on all of your handouts, and always, always follow up with your voters. If they have a question that you can't answer when you're there with them, no reason for you not to carry on your conversation at another time, because you're going to go off and find the answer to their question, and that will help cement a commitment in their minds. When you're going door to door, again, use that elevator speech, but also add things like, can I ask for your support on election day? And do you know where to vote? Do you need a ride? And of course, because we're social, make sure that if you're on Facebook, would you mind showing up and supporting and liking my page? Okay, so those are some key ways to engage with your electors when you do the door-to-door campaign. With a debate strategy, you must always expect to be challenged, and this applies to whether you're at the door or if you are online as well. You have to listen very intently and validate their concerns, and when you're in a debate, whether it's on a stage or door to door or in a crowd, always conduct yourself as if you're going to be the judge. Okay, judge what you're saying. Always think comparatively, always act like you're winning, have your positive body language, and always refer to evidence whenever possible, because if you can back up what you're saying with facts, that's all the more powerful. Always stay on topic and speak slowly, etc., etc. Show confidence, and again, back to the body language, that's going to speak volumes. And, my friend, be prepared to shut this down when it gets out of hand, because sometimes online conversations can go awry because people operate with a sense of anonymity when they're correlating with you online. And you could almost be baited and goaded into saying something negative. So do be prepared to block and shut things down. Also, be prepared to do that in person as well. Campaigning can be a nasty business. It can bring out a lot of core emotions with people, so you must be prepared for that. Let's talk now about your online campaign, because if you're in a large district or even in a small district, you should have an online presence, but especially so if you are in a large district, because it's just is sometimes impossible to get to all of the households. Your online campaign should consist of a website, a social media, some digital fundraising, and you should use all of that to build engagement, and I'll talk with you about how you can do that. You need to have a good online brand identity. That's going to start with your domain name. So do you use your name or your district name? Well, I would suggest using your own name, because you might be running for school board this year. You might in 10 years want to run for municipal council, and in another 8 years from there you might want to leapfrog into provincial or even federal politics. So I would suggest registering a domain name in your own name. Should you use .com or .ca? Well, we are a Canadian entity. I'd highly recommend using .ca. Your social profiles have to represent you, so ensure that you have legitimate social pages as opposed to personal profiles for your social media platforms. They are going to represent you, so be consistent with your messaging. Consistent messaging across all your social channels should be clear. You shouldn't have one value statement on Facebook and then another one on your Instagram channel, or if you're going to be engaging with Twitter, that's a great social tool as well, especially in larger urban centers. Make sure your messaging is clear there as well. And videos are huge. The more we can communicate our messages through video, through ourselves speaking, the more authentic we're going to see that we are going to be, and it captivates the voters' attention for sure. Voters are everywhere on all social profiles. So it's really important that you determine the age representation and the demographics of the district in which you're running. And if you determine that more are on Facebook versus Snapchat, or more are on Facebook, seriously, instead of, say, Twitter, then put your effort there on that social channel. Hashtags. That's the shift of the number 3 on your keyboard. Hashtags are a way to organize subject-specific conversations. Think back a few years ago, CBC Nova Scotia used the hashtag NSStorms, and it proved to be quite popular. Anybody who wanted to post something on any social channel would use the hashtag NSStorms, and whenever someone did a search on Facebook or through Google for hashtag NSStorms, all of the content pieces related would show up in your list. So it's a really nice way to organize your content. For example, hashtag Nova Scotia, hashtag Nova Scotia tourism is big. You should hashtag issue or apply hashtags rather to relevant issues in your community. Maybe hashtag your district. Make anything, make it relevant to you, your campaign, and what you're trying to achieve. And repeat your hashtags everywhere. It should go on every social channel, on every social post that you make, and throughout all of your communications. And a website. Obviously, the most cost-effective form of advertising. If you compare the cost of building a website to that of, say, the same in print, a website wins by leaps and bounds. Your website must be mobile friendly. Last statistic was 63% of websites are first visited by a mobile application. Not surprising. So you must ensure that your site is mobile friendly. There's nothing worse to disengage somebody who's looking at your online content if they do not have the ability to see what you're trying to say. If they have to try to scroll and pinch and expand the phone screen in order to see your messages, that's effort on their part, and it's going to result in them having a negative experience. So I can never stress enough how important it is to have a mobile-friendly site. You must have your value statement and your unique selling propositions embedded throughout your website. You need a great picture of yourself, and you have to talk about the issues in the community. Your website should also be helpful by providing some voter information, ways to contact you, and of course ways in which people can support your campaign as well. I'll take a look at finding the example for you to look at. Here is an example of a candidate website for, in this case, a municipal campaign. We have a great photograph here. It's a pleasing picture. The person appears to be very friendly. There's a navigation here at the top that points to very key subjects on this page. The value statement is clear and present. As soon as the visitor arrives on this page, they see exactly what the promise is from this candidate. Here we have a countdown clock. That's kind of handy. Then we can scroll down and we can see the community issues that this person cares about. So these are key campaign issues that you will be talking about consistently throughout your campaign. Here we have a great little bio on this person, again cemented with the picture, some voter information, Can you find your polling station as an example? Do you need rides or help in any other way? Having social proof is really important. So if you can get testimonials from people who are supporting you or people who have provided you with those endorsements, that can speak volumes and generate a tremendous amount of support going forward. Here's an opportunity on the same page where people can join this candidate's campaign team. They can make a cash donation, help with these types of activities, or just simply subscribe to the newsletter as well. Here's an opportunity to reinforce your unique selling proposition. So this is a nice place to put those 3 key points that are relevant to you and which separate you from your candidate rivals, and then your contact information. So having an attractive and user-friendly an informative website is key to your online campaign. Social media as well is highly recommended. I've highlighted both Facebook and LinkedIn. I think they're the most credible platforms for running a social campaign. Twitter and Instagram are also great tools as well, depending on your audience and if they are receptive to those tools. You have to use social because that's where your voters are. Make it fun and interactive, and it's a great and cost-effective way to organically promote yourself as well as providing you the opportunity to have some social proof. So the more people engage with you positively on your social platforms, the more popular you're going to appear to be, and the more likely somebody is going to want to engage with you. Some best practices for using social media is to always be engaging. So when you launch a Facebook page or your LinkedIn profile, you have to listen. You have to be very cognizant of the fact that people may be trying to communicate with you on those channels. So make sure you're listening at all times, or somebody on your campaign team is. You have to customize the content for the platform and be mobile at all times. I strongly suggest using email marketing to reach out to your audience as well. There are many choices, some of which are free: MailChimp, GetResponse, Constant Contact. They're all email automation tools that allow you to send a copy of one newsletter to a mass audience. Yeah, you can kind of do it with Gmail, but they're going to penalize you if they see repeated activity of doing mass spammy type activity. That's what Gmail will think you're doing, that you're spamming people if you send to like 500 people at once in your email. They'll shut you down for that. So that's why you have to move over to using an email automation software. Trust is implied as well. When you use email, you have that person's email address because they gave it to you, and therefore you have trust already implied with your relationship with that person. They've trusted you with a very important asset, and that's their email address. You have a captive audience, and you have an opportunity to have a private conversation when you use email. So best practices with respect to that is always have permission. Only have permission to use their email address, obviously. Don't just, steal it off their card. Actually make sure that they have given you the permission to use it. Only send important information. Don't be spammy, and always be friendly and polite. I've been asked several times about digital fundraising, and I think it is highly advisable to do a bit of donation, digital fundraising, and you can do so by having a donate button on your website. You can integrate that with any number of e-commerce platforms that are available, and we can have that conversation if you're so interested. Your official agent should have his or her own email address into which e-transfers can be made. So I think it's highly advisable to allow your electors and your supporters to transfer money to your official agent, and doing so through a separate and trusted email account is highly advisable. People have asked me about whether or not using GoFundMe or Kickstarter is a good idea, and you know what? I think that's it's kind of cheesy to have a GoFundMe account for your political campaign. GoFundMe accounts are great for community-based initiatives. Maybe there's, a fundraising for somebody who's ill, or you often see people who have lost their possessions in a fire. The community will get together and they'll launch a GoFundMe campaign to try to help that person. Rarely do you see GoFundMe accounts associated with political campaigns, okay? GoFundMe is an official community-based fundraising tool, as is Kickstarter, but they operate a little differently. Kickstarter, you only get the money if you reach your goal. With GoFundMe, you can make withdrawals at any time, but I really don't recommend either one of them for a political campaign. I do, however, think that whatever donations are received should be tracked by your official agent in their own spreadsheet. And if you are going to engage in digital fundraising, I suggest promoting it on your website and across all your channels, including your email signature with a link to the donate button, and make sure that you mention it in any of your print marketing or on radio as well. Now, how do you get online support? Because it is critical to your success, because everyone is online. You have to use social media to increase your followers. A way to engage your followers could be to run an online petition. Some people have run online questionnaires, sometimes that are relevant to what might be happening in the community or the district that you're running in. You can go off to surveymonkey.com and check out their online polls. easypolls.net is another one that allows you to, to have free polling as well. And then Google has a polling tool also. You can also get online support by sending out regular email campaigns to your mailing list to encourage them to volunteer, encourage them to make a donation, or most importantly, to get that vote out. So email is a great tool to get that vote out for sure. In terms of digital advertising, this is buying Facebook ads, for example. I think they're very cost effective, and I highly recommend considering using digital advertising. It's very easy to set up for local advertising, and again, I recommend Facebook because it helps you target local audiences. It's very scalable, and it's very, very flexible as well. What's happening now in Nova Scotia with respect to Facebook advertising? If you see here on the left, this is a keyword cloud that I generated that determined. Actually, I didn't generate this. I have generated keyword clouds, but this was taken from this link right here. CBC News ran an article on political ad campaigns here in Nova Scotia right now. What's popular for keyword searches are these terms. The ad subjects, however, with Facebook advertising are these in order of priority, and that kind of, the federal Liberals are spending a lot of money in Nova Scotia right now on Facebook ad campaigns, as is the HRM, as is the Liberal Party, but as is the CEPA, something about the pipelines. The Conservative Party, interestingly, is behind the Liberal Party in their Facebook ad spending right now in Nova Scotia. So this is not to promote any one campaign or any one party over the other. Please don't misunderstand me. What this is showing you is that there's a tremendous amount of Facebook advertising activity happening from a political advantage now in this province. And I think to date, just in this province alone, the Liberals have spent over $50,000 on their Facebook ads. I don't know what the others have spent. Again, that is not to promote one party over the other. It's simply to show you that right now, these are the key keywords that are happening in this province, and these are the campaigns that are running from a Facebook perspective, and it's to your advantage to consider digital advertising. Let's take a look at a couple of digital ad examples, and these were just scraped from a Facebook page. Here's one where people are engaged to change their life and they're encouraged to do a 5-day challenge. I like jumping up out of bed every morning because I want to get up and face my day. Some people, however, don't. So if they need to be challenged and they have to find their passion and their purpose, this ad might very well likely get their attention. Likewise, this is an ad that's encouraging people to take another kind of a challenge over 45 days. If they are committed, they will experience a transformation. So these are very powerful ads that I think you should consider running something very similar within the Facebook community, because that allows you to do very specific ad targeting. Here is a timeline. I always like to talk about a timeline with candidates because it helps set the calendar for the global activity, the global calendar, if you will, for those kinds of activities that should be happening at key times. So this is in anticipation of next year's, of the 2020 municipal election, which is going to happen in October. But you can pretty much change this timeline to reflect any 6-month pre-election period. Always say about at the outset of the 6 months, in this case April, you should have your budget defined and you should have your official agent appointed. And your official agent is that person who's going to take care of all of your campaign finances. At the municipal level, you can be your own official agent. I always think it's a good idea to be arm's length from all the money at all times. That's why in April you should have your OA appointed, because the next month, or into April and May, your official agent will set up the bank account. And then your fundraising can begin. Your infrastructure is in place. You cannot issue receipts at the municipal level, but you can provincially. This is also the time for you to set up your campaign roles. Define who's going to be your campaign manager, who's going to be in charge of social media marketing and digital marketing. Sometimes they are the same. Quite often they are the same, but it's an opportunity to figure out who's going to do what for you during your campaign. Things like, you can't be expected to put up signs all the time, and you can't be expected to know and collect all the signage, as an example. So appoint people who are ready to help you. By June, you should have your marketing messages done and you be ready to build your online. And that includes your email marketing, your Facebook page, and your website. That gives you time for July to do your printing of your brochures and your signage if you're going to go that route, and I recommend you do. That's going to give you all of the meat and the fodder, if you will, to go door to door, because you will have your marketing messages down pat. You'll have your print material that references your online locations, and you have something to hand out at the door, and you have something to talk about at the door as well. So a couple of months before the actual election day, you're out there campaigning door to door, and you're participating in events. If you have a budget that will allow for it in September and October, I'd recommend doing some radio conversations, boosting your social activity, and of course continue with your email marketing and your door-to-door campaigning as well. When you are in post-victory mode, congratulations. Don't rest, because there's still a tremendous amount of work to be done, for sure. You have the candidate financial disclosure statements that have to be submitted to your local district offices. You also have to settle all your expenses and close that bank account. Make sure that within I think you have like 7 days thereabouts to collect all your signage. If you don't, fines can be levied. And this is also a time to, after your election, is to issue your thank you or thank you to your supporters. Always thank people for voting for you, even if you don't win. Okay? Always thank them. And some people are known to stand after each election at a certain spot on a highway to wave thank you the morning after to the electors from their district, and people come to expect that, and it's a very nice touch. So make sure you thank everybody for taking part in the electoral process at all times, and congratulate your incumbent as well if you're not, or congratulate rather the incumbent if you're not successful. Then, my friend, you must get ready to take your seat at that table. Here's a special message for female candidates out there. Women do belong in all places where decisions are being made. Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. And that was a quote by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, marvelous advocate for female equal rights, for sure. That almost concludes my campaign discussion with you today, but I do have an offer. If you're at all interested in moving forward with a campaign, either provincially or municipally, and you're interested in talking with us about doing a digital marketing campaign for your initiative, I have an offer of one web page and domain and hosting, and a Facebook page as well. The standard price for our single web page, which is very similar to the one that I showed you during the demonstration today, is $750. The domain and the hosting fees are necessary, and they're paid directly to the hosting company and the domain registrar. I don't profit over this, but the standard prices for getting both a hosting package and a domain name are around $300, $325 per year. There's also a fee, of course. I'll take the time to make sure that your Facebook page has been established and that all of your right marketing messages are crafted and created and appear on your web page, and also you have brand consistency with a Facebook page. So there's a fee of $150 for that, and that's a total of about $12.25. But because you're engaged with me today and that you've stayed this long, I'm offering a political engagement discount of $200, and that's really going to come off the cost of the web page, if you will. You'll still get complete value. So I'm offering a digital marketing package for anyone considering running in the upcoming 2020 municipal election campaign or in provincial campaigns in this province, and I'm offering that for $10.25. As an optional package, if you wish to engage us to do your email management of sending newsletters and managing your email list, there's an additional option for a monthly fee of $150. And if you'd like us to manage your community, your Facebook community as well, and ensure that 3 to 5 relevant posts from your talking about you and relevant information for your electors happens on a weekly basis, up to 5 times, we have an additional fee of that. So we have an online engagement package of $500 if you wished to engage us. If you do sign up with us, we will provide you with a series of bonuses. Remember that vote goal calculator? I'd be happy to provide that to you at no additional cost. Our fee on that was $125. Then, of course, we have a series of pre-written scripts that are ready for you to use. So you have a fundraising email script. This is a script that's been crafted that has guaranteed success and response from sending out a fundraising request through email. So we'll provide that to you as an additional sign-up bonus, as well as 2 telephone scripts. One is for cold calling. That's one that introduces you to the elector, and we also have a warm calling script as well as a reminder for people to support you and get out to vote. Then we have press releases. We have a template for that. So your bonus savings, if you choose to sign up with us, value $350. That's a little bit of pocket change there. If you combine that with our political engagement discount of $200, you're looking at savings of over $500 if you do a bonus sign up with us. If you have any questions, If you'd like to discuss the offer that we have, please feel free to reach out. I'm here to have conversations with you about your campaign. I'm also here to encourage you to run. Please consider spreading the word that the vote is so very important. You know, it's a foundational pillar of our society. The electoral process, the democracy is a strong pillar of our society, and we want to get as many people out exercising their right to vote as possible. So if however you have decided that you'd like to run and that you'd like to have us represent you, by all means you can reach out at atlanticonline.ca, and our phone number is listed there, and our email address is listed for your reference as well. So I want to thank you very much for being with me today. I've taken up an hour and almost 15 minutes of your time, and I want to thank you for your attention today and for being with me. And do reach out if there is anything at all that we can help you with. Okay, ta-ta, bye for now.